As we approach the month of October, we focus more on some of the critical goals that go into making an avid student in our community that is successful both in the classroom and outside, and especially for our young students, reading, such a critical need both in and outside of the classroom. And so the West Bloomfield School District doing its part to support parents as they support their kids' reading efforts all throughout the school year. There's going to be a special event happening in the I Center at West Bloomfield High School on October 23rd to give even more information to our parents and our caregivers of K through 5 students on how they can support their kids' efforts in reading. Joining us to tell us even more about this effort is Sonja James as well as Colleen Mestdagh from the West Bloomfield School District. Thank you both for being with us today.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, happy to have you on to talk about this. It's called Caregiver University. It'll be happening again October 23rd in the I Center at West Bloomfield High School. Give us a little bit of a background on the inspiration behind creating this opportunity for parents and why you want to focus on the, quote, Raising Joyful Readers, end quote, initiative.
Well, actually, I'm going to turn it over to Colleen because really she is the brain trust. As a member of our global equity team, this is one of the initiatives that we felt really passionate about in terms of providing opportunities for our families to be engaged with what we do at school and giving them some tools at home to help to build that home school connection. So I'm going to turn it over to Colleen so she can tell you more about Raising Joyful Readers with Caregiver University.
Thank you. Yeah, so I'm a teacher librarian here in the district and a former classroom teacher, and literacy is just a huge passion of all of us in West Bloomfield. And we really want to be able to support families at home. So we know that students spend a lot of time during the school day reading, but if they go home and they're not independently reading, we know that students then will struggle. And it's so important to make this a joyful time. We want students to fall in love with books. We want them to see themselves in books. We want them to see other people and just really affirm all lived experiences. And so we thought with our GET committee, this would just tie beautifully into our equity mission. And parents get to come. They also get to bring their children. The students will kind of get to go into an activity room and do some awesome book activities and get book bags and decorate and do a lot of fun things, while the parents will stay with us and hopefully we can give them tools to help them build a reading culture at home. And these are just really applicable, easy strategies that they can implement that will hopefully just really give them the time, the access, and choice to build and grow our readers.
And so, Colleen, we don't want to give it all away. We want people to show up to Caregiver University and take all these in. But give us a little bit of a preview of what some of these strategies are that really do, as you said, create avid learners both in and outside the classroom that seek those different journeys through books.
Sure. Well, yes, we definitely want you to come. So please join us. But really, when we think about growing readers, there are 3 main pillars that we'll touch on. The first one is time. So how do we, in our busy lives as parents, I'm a mom as well, how do we find time to read at home? And how do we model that for our children, right? We always kind of have the old adage as parents as they're always watching us. They see what we do. So how can we make sure that we're always carrying books with us when we go to appointments, when we're waiting? How do we make sure that we squeeze in this reading time and we show them what a readerly life looks like? We have to model that outside of school for them to understand that this is who we are as readers. It's not a chore, it's not a job, it's a part of our identity. So we'll talk about how to make time for just simply reading at home. We will definitely talk about the importance of reading aloud and how vital that is as a family. I will give lots of tips if we have multiple children in our home. How do we kind of knock that all out at once? What are some great read alouds, some great inclusive read alouds that we can read aloud to our whole family that would be appropriate for a pre-K student all the way up to a 5th grade, right? Because if you have multiple kids, that's really tricky. Mm-hmm. And we know how busy families are and we know how busy kids are. Mm-hmm. So how can we teach them to squeeze in that time? There was a great research study that even 6 minutes of reading a day lowers your stress. So we not only want to get our families getting their kids reading at home, We want
You
the
know,
adults
to
reading
read,
too,
yes,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, we want them just all to value this. And we really make time for what we value, right?
Mhm.
We'll talk a lot about access.
Mhm.
We're so excited that the West Bloomfield Public Library will be joining us, and Schuler's
Bookstore,
Yes, independent
absolutely.
bookstore. If you
Yes.
haven't checked it out, part of our strategic plan in our district is community partnerships. So this is huge to kind of build that connection. And so we want families to know, go to the library. It's free, and those librarians are amazing.
Or just to step foot inside of Sheila's bookstore,
Yeah.
Yep.
that kids section is phenomenal back there as well too. You can get yourself lost in books in both the public library as well as Sheila's bookstore.
Yeah. And so access matters, right? Listening with our ears counts.
Yes.
Audiobooks count. There are so many ways to get our readers getting that beautiful language in their hearts. And that's really what we're trying to do is, grow our hearts through story.
Yeah.
And choice. We're
Yeah.
going to talk a lot about choice, that kids need to choose
The
what
books
they're
that-
reading. It matters.
Absolutely.
It matters. They will be motivated when they choose. So we're going to talk about valuing all styles of books, all
Right.
genres, all authors, all creators.
Right.
And we're going to give lots of good book lists. So I will talk about all the latest and greatest new in children's lit. And we hope we can squeeze this into an hour.
1 hour.
1 hour.
1 hour.
I talk fast, so this is good.
Yeah, it'll just take an hour of your time for parents and for caregivers to learn a lot about how you can inspire your kids to keep reading going forward and create that inclusive culture of reading too. And Colleen, going back to you on that, how do you believe that creating that culture can actually help both with not only the academic growth of our young kids, but also their personal growth too during these really critical years in their development?
Yes. I mean, I really truly believe that books can save lives.
Mhm.
I think that when we are very careful about the books that we're using, I teach 500 students a week and I see a different class every hour. And so, our position is really unique in the
Mhm.
district that we are teacher librarians. We are
Right.
teaching and we are running a library as well. So, in our area, we're very careful about the books we choose as
Right.
our classroom teachers. And
Mhm.
Sonja and I with the GET committee
Yep.
are working really hard to educate all of our staff to be very, very careful about the books they choose. Because again, we want to affirm the lived experiences of our students. That is so important. And we also want to affirm the lived experience of others who might
Right.
not live the experience of our students, right?
Absolutely.
And so that's really important. We want to honor all voices. And honestly, that just builds understanding, compassion,
Mhm.
empathy, and it creates amazing humans. And
Absolutely.
that's why we're here.
Exactly.
We're raising great humans.
Absolutely. And then you want to make sure within all of that we're doing is that students see themselves in everything that we do, the books that we're reading, the music that we play, the poems that they read. So students are seeing themselves, they're learning about themselves, but they're also learning about others
Yes.
as well. So everyone is learning about each other, which goes back to your point of creating very empathetic and sympathetic students in terms of just creating good humans.
Yes, and we are so lucky to be in this district. This is why I choose to live here. This is why I choose to work in this district. We
Right.
are so beautifully diverse and we're so beautifully balanced in our community that it is amazing that we get to celebrate every student who walks in our door.
Yes.
And that's an amazing honor, and it's something that I don't think we take lightly.
Absolutely. And we can accomplish all of that through books.
We can.
We can do that.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's a lot easier
Mhm.
than I think sometimes people think,
Yes.
right? It's just finding the great books, connecting those with kids and families. And I really don't think there's an adult or child out there who doesn't like reading. I think that truly we just have to find the right book for them.
Right.
And so,
Absolutely.
Sonja, how does
Yes.
something like this and this effort, particularly on the reading side for our younger kids, both mirror but also support the overall equity and inclusion goals of the school district, something that you are overseeing on a daily basis?
It encompasses all of what we're doing within our equity goals because this is equity. The work that we're doing, creating those joyful readers where they are reading and learning about each other. Going back again to having our students learn more about themselves, their lived experiences, and affirming what their lived experiences are, as well as learning about others. And that's what the work of equity, that's the work of diversity and that inclusion piece, and finding materials that students find that within this book, I see where I belong. I can have a conversation about this, or I learned something new about the food that Colleen eats at her home, right? Because of a book that I read. So it is equity, it is diversity, it is inclusive in terms of picking up a book and just instilling that joy of reading to our students.
And lastly, for the both of you, what other outcomes or feedback are you hoping to receive from parents or even from students as you engage in Caregiver University in late October?
A good problem to have would be that the eye center is not big enough.
Yeah.
That is our hope.
That's our hope.
But our goal is to, this year, the first time out the gate with it in terms of being very specific and intentional and building that every year we are having a focus where we're engaging our family and our community members. Even if you, in terms of, you may not be the biological parent, you may be a grandparent, you may be an aunt, an uncle, a relative that is caring for the students that we have in our district. We want everyone to feel that this is important work that we're doing here in the district, but it's also important work that we partner with you, and you can continue this at home as well. Too.
I mean, we're here for the students and we're here for the families. And the families know their students best, right? They are the most important person in their lives. And we care for them as if they're our own. But if we can partner with families and have that really strong homeschool connection, that just benefits our students altogether.
Absolutely.
And also, just in case we forget, we are going to have dinner.
Yes,
Did
we
not say that.
That's right.
So yeah,
pizza
dinner for all the kids and all the families. So I mean, you get to come as a parent.
Yes.
You get free childcare, free dinner for your whole family.
Right.
You get to come hang out with us and talk about books.
That's right.
What could be better, right?
The joy.
The joy
that you'll leave with, and hopefully the joy that we instill in our families for that evening.
Yeah. And it just hopefully gets that momentum going forward. And we would love to continue to offer this again in the future.
A little dose of inspiration to help you inspire your child to do something productive that will help them both in their personal and their academic lives. Sonja, Colleen, thank you both for joining us today.
You're welcome.
Thanks for
having us.